Welcome to True Crime Tales. In today's episode, we explore a chilling story of betrayal and murder that took place in Fayetteville, Arkansas, in April of 2015. This is the tragic tale of Johnny Ray Baxter, a successful real estate agent whose life was brutally ended by someone he trusted most. Johnny Ray Baxter was a 45-year-old man living in Fayetteville, Arkansas. He was a well-known real estate agent working with a local company called Ozark Realty. Known for his big smile and friendly nature, Johnny Ray was beloved by clients and colleagues alike. He held a degree in business administration from the University of Arkansas and had worked in real estate for over 2 decades. Johnny Ray was married to Darling Baxter. The couple appeared to have a happy marriage, though Johnny Ray was Darling's second husband. Darling had a daughter, Lily Adams, who was 18 years old and in her first year at the University of Arkansas, studying psychology. Johnny Ray got along well with Lily, or at least that's how it appeared to the outside world. Outside of work, Johnny Ray was passionate about sailing. He owned a small sailboat named Dreamcatcher, which he often sailed on Beaver Lake. He enjoyed spending weekends on the water, savoring the feeling of the wind and waves. Friends at the local marina remembered him as someone always willing to lend a hand or share a laugh. In the days leading up to his death, Johnny Ray was focused on a significant property deal. He was working to finalize the sale of a large commercial property in downtown Fayetteville, a deal he hoped would be a major boost for his career. He was also planning a surprise anniversary trip for Darling. He had booked a cabin in the Ozark Mountains, purchased concert tickets for an event in Little Rock, and picked out a special necklace from Sissy's log cabin as a gift for his wife. Despite his busy schedule, Johnny Ray made it a point to visit his local coffee shop, A.R. Saga's, every morning. There, he enjoyed reading the newspaper and chatting with the baristas. His favorite drink was a caramel latte. On April 10, 2015, just 2 days before his death, Johnny Ray was seen at A.R. Saga's, smiling and talking about his weekend plans. He seemed happy and excited about the future. However, Johnny Ray's seemingly perfect life had hidden struggles. Darling had been acting more stressed and anxious lately. She had noticed some troubling changes in Lily's behavior and became suspicious of Johnny Ray's late-night meetings. Neighbors and friends began to notice the tension brewing in the Baxter household. On the morning of April 12, 2015, at approximately 7:30 a.m., Johnny Ray Baxter's lifeless body was discovered. The person who found him was his neighbor, Michael Everly. Michael, a 52-year-old retired schoolteacher, lived next door to the Baxters. Darling had called him, worried because she hadn't heard from Johnny Ray since the previous night. She was out of town visiting her sister and asked Michael to check on her husband. Michael knocked on the Baxter front door, but there was no answer. He noticed that Johnny Ray's car was still in the driveway, so he decided to try the door. To his surprise, it was unlocked. As he stepped inside, he immediately sensed that something was wrong. The house was unusually quiet. He called out for Johnny Ray, but there was no response. He walked through the living room and into the kitchen, where he saw signs of a struggle, chairs overturned and broken glass scattered on the floor. Following the trail of chaos, Michael entered the master bedroom, where he was met with a gruesome sight. Johnny Ray's body lay in a pool of blood on the floor. He had been bludgeoned to death with a hammer, which lay nearby, covered in blood. The room was a mess, with blood splattered on the walls and furniture. It was clear that Johnny Ray had fought for his life. Horrified, Michael quickly backed out of the room, his hands shaking. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed 911, his voice trembling as he described the scene. The 911 operator tried to keep him calm, instructing him to stay on the line until police arrived. News of Johnny Ray's death spread rapidly through the neighborhood, with Maple Street soon filled with police cars and curious neighbors whispering about the shocking event. Local news stations like KSM and KNWA dispatched reporters to cover the story, and by noon, it was the top headline in Fayetteville. Michael, who had been friends with Johnny Ray for years, was in shock. He never expected to find his neighbor and friend dead in such a brutal manner. He later told reporters that Johnny Ray was a good man who didn't deserve such a terrible fate. The discovery of Johnny Ray Baxter's body marked the start of a complex and tragic investigation, one that would uncover hidden secrets and lead to shocking revelations about those closest to him. Police arrived quickly at the Baxter home after Michael's 911 call. The first officers on the scene secured the area, ensuring that no one entered or left the house. Shortly afterward, Detectives Sarah Mitchell Kinsey and James Carter arrived to take charge of the investigation. Detective Mitchell Kinsey, 38, was known for her sharp eye for detail and had solved many challenging cases. Her partner, Detective Carter, 42, was renowned for his methodical approach. Together, they formed a formidable team. As the detectives walked through the house, they observed signs of a struggle. The living room was in disarray, with overturned chairs and broken glass. The kitchen was chaotic, with dishes scattered across the floor. When the detectives arrived at the master bedroom, they were met with a horrifying sight. Johnny Ray Baxter lay lifeless on the floor, surrounded by a pool of blood. He had been brutally murdered with a hammer, which was found nearby, also covered in blood. Blood spattered the walls and furniture, evidence of the violent attack. Detective Mitchell Kinsey immediately recognized the hammer as the weapon and ordered it to be collected as evidence. The crime scene was chaotic and disturbing. The detectives and forensic team took extensive photographs and gathered various samples. Wearing gloves, they carefully handled items, ensuring no evidence was contaminated. Blood samples, fingerprints, and the hammer were sent to the lab for analysis. Outside, neighbors watched as the police worked the scene, and local news outlets, including KFSM and KNWA, reported on the shocking murder. Reporters spoke with neighbors who described Johnny Ray as a friendly and well-liked man. The media attention intensified the pressure on the detectives to solve the case quickly. Detectives Mitchell Kinsey and Carter interviewed Michael Everly, who had discovered the body. Michael, still visibly shaken, recounted how he found the door unlocked and the disturbing scene inside the house. His detailed account helped the detectives piece together the events leading up to the murder. By the end of the day, the police had gathered significant evidence, but many questions remained. Who could have committed such a brutal act? Why would anyone want to kill Johnny Ray? The detectives knew they faced a difficult case, but they were determined to uncover the truth. The first suspect in Johnny Ray Baxter's murder was his wife, Darling Baxter. Darling, 34, worked as an accountant for a local firm called Razorback Accounting. She was intelligent, meticulous, and hardworking. Darling had a difficult past, becoming a mother at the age of 16 and working as a stripper to support herself and her daughter, Lily. Despite these challenges, she built a successful career and was known for her strong-willed nature. Recently, Darling had noticed troubling changes in her daughter Lily's behavior, and she had grown suspicious of Johnny Ray's late-night work meetings. Friends and neighbors described Darling as increasingly stressed and on edge in the weeks leading up to the murder. Some even reported hearing arguments between her and Johnny Ray. On April 13, 2015, the detectives brought Darling in for questioning. She appeared calm, but it was clear she was distressed. Darling maintained that she had been out of town visiting her sister in Little Rock. She provided photos and text messages to support her alibi, but the detectives still had doubts. During the interrogation, Darling admitted that she and Johnny Ray had been arguing more frequently, primarily about his work and the time he spent away from home. She denied any involvement in his death, insisting that she loved her husband despite their problems. When the detectives asked about the night of the murder, Darling explained that she had left for Little Rock on the afternoon of April 11th and stayed with her sister until the morning of April 12th. Nancy, her sister, confirmed this story when the detectives contacted her. However, the detectives couldn't ignore the tension in Darling's voice when she spoke about Johnny Ray and the changes she had noticed in Lily. The police also searched Darling's car and belongings for any evidence, but found nothing directly linking her to the crime. However, they did discover a diary in which Darling had written about her frustrations and suspicions. These diary entries painted a picture of a woman under immense stress and emotional turmoil. Despite her alibi, Darling remained a prime suspect. The detectives continued to investigate her past, interviewing friends, family, and co-workers, hoping to find a motive or any clue that could link her to the murder. As the investigation progressed, the pressure on Darling grew, but she remained steadfast in her innocence. The second suspect was Darling's daughter, Lily Adams. Lily, 18, was a freshman at the University of Arkansas, studying psychology. She was known for her outgoing and sociable personality, and her friends described her as bright and ambitious. However, her relationship with her stepfather Johnny Ray was more complicated than it appeared. It was revealed that Johnny Ray and Lily had been involved in a secret affair, which made Lily feel guilty and conflicted, especially as she saw the strain it put on her mother. Detectives Sarah Mitchell Kinsey and James Carter brought Lily in for questioning on April 14, 2015. She appeared nervous but cooperative. Lily admitted to the affair with Johnny Ray, explaining that it had started 6 months earlier. She said she had been feeling lonely and confused, and Johnny Ray had been there for her. Lily insisted that she never intended to hurt anyone. During the interrogation, Lily described how she had confided in a close friend about the affair and her feelings of guilt. This friend, whose identity was not disclosed, later confirmed Lily's story to the detectives. Lily also described the last time she saw Johnny Ray, which was the night before his death. She explained that they had argued about the affair and the impact it was having on their family. The detectives asked Lily about her whereabouts on the night of the murder. She claimed she had been at a friend's house, studying for a midterm exam. Her friend confirmed this alibi, stating that Lily had stayed at their house until the early morning hours of April 12th. Despite this, the detectives remained suspicious and continued to dig deeper into the case. Both Darling and Lily had motives, but which one was responsible for Johnny Ray's brutal death? The investigation was far from over, and the detectives knew that uncovering the truth would require more than just surface-level answers. The detectives were becoming increasingly suspicious of the emotional distress Lily was experiencing. To investigate further, the police searched Lily's dorm room and belongings. While they didn't find any direct evidence linking her to the murder, they did discover several letters and notes exchanged between her and Johnny Ray. These documents revealed the intensity of their relationship and the emotional struggles both were facing. Despite her alibi and the lack of solid evidence, Lily remained a key suspect, largely due to the affair and the emotional turmoil it caused. The detectives continued to interview Lily's friends and classmates, looking for any inconsistencies or new leads. The pressure on Lily grew as the investigation advanced, but she maintained her innocence and expressed deep regret over the affair. The investigation into Lily Adams was thorough, but many questions remained unanswered. The detectives knew they had to dig deeper to uncover the truth behind Johnny Ray Baxter's brutal murder. On April 17, 2015, 5 days after Johnny Ray's death, the police received a significant lead. It was a chilly morning when a jogger discovered a suspicious item in a park near Beaver Lake. The jogger found a plastic bag partially buried beneath some leaves near a bench. When he opened it, he found a blood-stained shirt and a pair of gloves. He immediately contacted the police, and officers Karen Lewis and Tom Martinez arrived at the scene within minutes. They secured the area and called in detectives Sarah Mitchell Kinsey and James Carter. The detectives assessed the situation and collected the items for forensic analysis. While they remained cautious, they were hopeful that this new evidence might provide a breakthrough in the case. The items were sent to the Fayetteville Police Department's forensic lab, where analysts discovered that the blood on the shirt matched Johnny Ray's DNA. In addition, the gloves had fingerprints that did not belong to Johnny Ray. This new evidence shifted the investigation's direction. The detectives revisited their list of suspects and re-examined their alibis. They also reviewed surveillance footage from the park and nearby areas, leading to a surprising discovery. A figure resembling Lily Adams was seen entering the park late on the night of the murder. Detectives Mitchell Kinsey and Carter brought Lily in for a second round of questioning. This time, Lily was visibly more nervous. She claimed she had gone to the park to clear her head and had no knowledge of the bloody items. The detectives pressed her for more details, but Lily stuck to her story, albeit nervously. Meanwhile, the forensic team made another critical discovery: hair fibers on the gloves that matched Darling Baxter's DNA. This evidence complicated the case further, suggesting that both mother and daughter might be involved. On April 18, 2015, the detectives called Darling in for questioning again. She seemed calm, but concerned when presented with the new evidence. Darling admitted that she knew about the gloves, but insisted she had worn them while gardening. She couldn't explain how they ended up near Beaver Lake. The discovery of this new evidence was pivotal, intensifying the search for the person responsible for Johnny Ray Baxter's murder. The detectives knew they were getting closer to uncovering the truth, but they needed to carefully piece together the remaining details. The third person of interest in the case was Johnny Ray's ex-wife, Diddy Baxter. Diddy, 46, was known for her fiery temperament and aggressive nature. She had a contentious relationship with Johnny Ray and had never approved of his marriage to Darling. Diddy lived in Fayetteville and worked as a manager at a local grocery store, Har's Food Stores. Detectives Sarah Mitchell-Kinsey and James Carter decided to bring Diddy in for questioning on April 19, 2015. Diddy arrived at the police station, appearing defiant and uncooperative. She had a reputation for speaking her mind and was not afraid to share her opinions. During the interrogation, Diddy admitted that she and Johnny Ray had a turbulent relationship, full of arguments. She expressed her disdain for Darling, calling her a homewrecker and blaming her for the collapse of her marriage. However, Diddy vehemently denied any involvement in Johnny Ray's murder. The detectives questioned Diddy about her whereabouts on the night of April 11, 2015. She claimed she had been at home watching TV and drinking wine. She specifically mentioned watching an episode of Dancing with the Stars before going to bed early. However, there were no witnesses to confirm her alibi, which raised the detectives' suspicions. The police searched Diddy's home for any evidence that might link her to the crime. They found several items of interest, including a set of gardening gloves similar to the ones found at the park. However, forensic analysis revealed no blood or DNA on the gloves. Despite the lack of direct evidence, the detectives continued to investigate Diddy's potential motive. They learned that Diddy had recently discovered Johnny Ray's affair with Lily, which likely added to her anger and frustration. Friends and co-workers told the detectives that Diddy had been particularly upset about the affair, calling Johnny Ray a disgrace and expressing her anger to anyone who would listen. Neighbors also reported hearing loud arguments coming from her house in the days leading up to the murder. One neighbor, Mrs. Everly, mentioned hearing Diddy yelling about betrayal and lies. Although Diddy remained a suspect, the detectives struggled to gather enough evidence to charge her. She was aggressive during the interrogation, but continued to maintain her innocence. The detectives knew they needed more concrete evidence to link her to the crime. The investigation into Diddy Baxter added another layer of complexity to the case. The detectives were working tirelessly to piece together the events leading to Johnny Ray's murder. On April 21, 2015, after days of investigation, a breakthrough finally came in the case. Detectives Sarah Mitchell-Kinsey and James Carter discovered a crucial piece of evidence that would change the course of the investigation. A nearby gas station surveillance camera had captured footage of Darling Baxter driving toward Beaver Lake late on the night of the murder. This new lead contradicted Darling's alibi and placed her at the scene of the crime at the critical time. The detectives carefully examined the footage, which showed Darling's blue Honda Civic passing the gas station around 11:30 p.m. on April 11th. This evidence was a significant breakthrough, placing her near the crime scene at the exact time of the murder. With this new information, the detectives became increasingly confident that they had identified Johnny Ray's killer. On the morning of April 22, 2015, the police arrived at Darling Baxter's workplace, Razorback Accounting, to arrest her. The sun was shining, and local news stations like KFSM and KWA were already covering the latest developments in the case. Darling was in her office when the police entered. She appeared surprised but composed as the officers informed her of her arrest for the murder of her husband. As Darling was led out of the office in handcuffs, she continued to deny her involvement. Despite her insistence on innocence, the evidence against her was overwhelming. The affair between Johnny Ray and Lily had deeply angered Darling, and detectives believed that on the night of the murder, Darling confronted Johnny Ray. The confrontation escalated into violence, and in a fit of rage, Darling grabbed a hammer and fatally struck him multiple times. The arrest shocked the community, as neighbors and friends struggled to believe that the hardworking, intelligent woman they knew was capable of such a violent act. News outlets like the Fayetteville Observer covered the arrest extensively, and local stations aired segments detailing the shocking turn of events. Johnny Ray's family had mixed reactions to the news. Some felt relief that the murderer had been caught, while others were devastated by the betrayal. Lily, in particular, was heartbroken, having lost both her stepfather and now her mother in a matter of days. The emotional toll on the family was immense. As Darling was taken to the police station, she continued to deny any involvement. However, the detectives were confident in their findings. The surveillance footage, forensic evidence, and Darling's conflicting statements painted a clear picture of her guilt. The community of Fayetteville struggled to come to terms with the tragedy, as Johnny Ray's murder had uncovered deep family secrets and left a lasting impact on everyone involved. The trial of Darling Baxter for the murder of Johnny Ray Baxter began on July 15, 2015, at the Washington County Courthouse in Fayetteville. The courtroom was filled with reporters from local news stations such as KSSM and KNA, along with concerned members of the community. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Robert Stevens, a 45-year-old known for his tough and relentless approach in the courtroom. Stevens argued that Darling's motive for the murder was her discovery of the affair between Johnny Ray and Lily. He painted a picture of a woman pushed to her breaking point by betrayal and emotional turmoil, presenting the surveillance footage, forensic evidence, and Darling's conflicting statements as key pieces of the case. On the defense side, attorney Michelle Williams, a 39-year-old known for her calm demeanor and sharp legal mind, argued that Darling was innocent and that the evidence was merely circumstantial. She suggested that someone else might have committed the murder, perhaps out of jealousy or anger, and questioned the reliability of the surveillance footage. Williams also pointed out that no one had seen Darling commit the crime. Throughout the trial, Johnny Ray's family sat in the front row, watching the proceedings with a mixture of anger and sadness. Lily, in particular, struggled with the emotional weight of the trial, as she had lost her stepfather and now faced the possibility of losing her mother to a long prison sentence. After 2 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for 3 days before returning with a verdict on August 3, 2015. Darling Baxter was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was tense as the verdict was read. Darling showed little emotion, while Johnny Ray's family wept and embraced one another. The local news immediately reported the verdict, and the Fayetteville Observer covered the story extensively. Judge Lisa Everly sentenced Darling to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She stated that the evidence clearly pointed to Darling's guilt, and that the crime was the result of intense personal betrayal and anger. The judge expressed sympathy for Johnny Ray's family and hoped the sentence would bring them some measure of closure. The reaction to the verdict was mixed. Some members of the community felt that justice had been served, while others believed the sentence was too harsh, considering Darling's difficult past and the emotional stress she had been under. Johnny Ray's family, however, felt a sense of relief, knowing that the person responsible for his death had been held accountable. The trial and sentencing marked the end of a tragic chapter for both the Baxter family and the Fayetteville community. While the murder and its aftermath had left deep emotional scars, the verdict provided a sense of justice and a step toward healing. After Darling Baxter's trial and sentencing, life slowly began to return to normal for those involved in Johnny Ray's tragic murder case. For Darling, now serving her sentence at the Arkansas Department of Correction, life became a stark routine. She was allowed limited visits from family and friends, with strict rules governing her daily activities. The media coverage surrounding the trial gradually faded, replaced by news stories and events in Fayetteville, such as the annual Bikes, Blues, and BBQ motorcycle rally. Lily Adams, now 19, returned to the University of Arkansas to continue her studies in psychology. She struggled with the guilt and grief over her role in the affair that ultimately led to her stepfather's death. Lily sought counseling to help her cope with the emotional aftermath and worked hard to rebuild relationships with her family. She distanced herself from the media, focusing instead on her studies and volunteering at local animal shelters. Meanwhile, Detective Mitchell, Kinsey, and Carter continued their work, reflecting on the complex case that had left an indelible mark on everyone involved. Detective Sarah Mitchell Kinsey received widespread recognition for her pivotal role in solving the high-profile case. She continued her work with the Fayetteville Police Department, investigating other crimes while also mentoring younger detectives. Detective James Carter, on the other hand, transferred to the Northwest Arkansas Drug Task Force, where he applied his investigative expertise to combating drug-related crimes in the region. In the Fayetteville community, the impact of Johnny Ray's murder continued to be felt. Neighbors and friends remembered him as a kind, successful real estate agent with a passion for sailing on Beaver Lake. To honor his memory, the local Rotary Club held a memorial service, and a plaque was installed at the Fayetteville Town Center to commemorate his life and contributions to the community. Johnny Ray's family, especially his first wife, Diddy, found comfort in one another's company and support. Diddy focused on her career at Hart's Food Stores and became actively involved in local charity events, such as the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure in Bentonville. She remained steadfast in keeping her family close and offering support to her grandchildren, who deeply missed their stepfather. As time passed, the emotional wounds caused by Johnny Ray's murder began to heal, though the memory of the tragic events from April 2015 would forever remain a part of Fayetteville's history. The community rallied around the Baxter family, offering both support and understanding as they moved forward from the ordeal. This tragic case of love, betrayal, and murder serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of human relationships and the devastating consequences of unchecked emotions. Thank you for joining us for this episode of True Crime Tales. Stay tuned for more stories that delve into the darkest corners of the human psyche. Until next time, stay safe.